So we're here for the maiden flight of the DJI Mini 5 Pro. We're just going to wait for it to pick up enough satellites. Let me start screen recording actually. So we're just waiting for it now to pick up satellites. This is obviously the first time it's been powered on. And we're here at a velodrome, which should provide us with an interesting vista while we show you some of the main settings that you're initially going to want to change when you first get your hands on this drone. We can see, and I'll sort of talk through it now while we're waiting, but we'll go into it in more detail in a second. Let me just skip all this. I advise you if you're new to go through that.
Point updated.
But I don't. So we can see straight away on here that we're in JPEG. It's normally set to 12 megabits. I'll set it, and we're in auto mode. So we've got a few things that we're going to change. You can bring up your map to see exactly where you're flying, and then if you swipe left or right, you've got a compass. Swipe left or right again, and you've got a view of the sensor cameras, which show you a 360-degree view around the drone in case you want to keep an eye on if somebody's behind you or whatever. That does only work obviously once you're in the sky though. So the first thing we're going to do now is take off, and to do that we're going to push both sticks in to the bottom left. That will then fire up the motors. As you can see,
take off.
One of the cameras is on. You can change it around as you wish. And I'm just going to take off, and I'm going to take off by pushing the left stick. Let me just make sure this camera's in the right position.
Home point updated.
Okay, so first of all, the first thing I notice is just how quiet it is. This thing is incredibly quiet. Now we can see that we've got a good, let me just change that so we can see a good view around us. Obviously the drone is literally above our head, but so we can see straight away if we look in the sky, we've got a good dynamic range on this, even in auto mode. And I'll take a picture first of all in auto mode, and that's a good starting point. If you're not 100% sure, in fact, let me just frame this properly a little bit. So I'm just going to move it, and I'm just going to lock that because it's annoying. Okay, so we'll take a picture now here in auto mode, and we'll let it do its thing. But what we're going to do now is we're going to actually change it and change some of the settings. So the first thing to do is just click on format, and if you want to transfer it to your phone, you can select JPEG and RAW. My advice is to select RAW in one way, shape or form or another, because at least that way you can then recover an image that you might not have got right. But I'm going to choose JPEG and RAW so that I've got both of them. Resolution, we can set it to 4:3, which gives us a full image sensor, and 50 megapixels. Now our EV value means it's perfectly exposed. You're going to need to want to pay attention to that in a second, because now we've changed it to Pro mode and it has knocked itself into auto mode. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set the ISO to 100. There's no reason not to set the ISO to 100 in circumstances like this, because that will give you the best quality image out of the drone. Now it tells us we are -1. So if we then slow down that shutter speed slightly, we've gone to -3, and slow it down again, and we're at 0. Now initially you may think, but Quads, that picture doesn't look as good as it did in auto mode, and you'd be right to assume that, because this is what the data that it's collecting looks like. Once you put that into Adobe Lightroom or any photo editor of your choice, the difference becomes insurmountable. So that's the first setting that I would suggest that you change. If you don't have any way of editing your photos, etc., you could always leave it in auto mode and you will get really good results with this drone. It is good for people that either can't edit or don't want to edit. Now by pressing this button here, we're going to switch to, well, let me actually, before we do that, first of all, my advice is always use AEB, which is auto exposure bracketing, and go to the maximum, which is 5. And I'm going to show you what that does now. It actually takes 5 images. So it takes a perfectly exposed image, 2 slightly underexposed, and two slightly overexposed. And I'll show you now on the PC exactly how good that image will look. And that is how a lot of people say to me, how are your pictures always so good? Always use auto exposure bracketing. It seems to be taking a while to save, but always use the auto exposure bracketing. Without any shadow of a doubt, it is so important to use. So there's an interesting focus thing going on with this. I'm not sure what it's all about. We'll have to have a look at it. So that's the photo mode. You've got burst mode, which will take several of the same one, which is good if you're chasing an object. So say you're chasing a boat or a car. We'll try and get some of those done later on. So you've got time shot as well. You've got your master shots, your quick shots, your hyperlapses, your panos. And in fact, we'll go into a pano now. Select the top left corner as a panorama starting position. Well, what we actually want to do is do a sphere. So it's going to take 33 photos, and I'm just going to press go for it. And again, it may not necessarily look initially like what it's taking is fantastic, but when we get to the final result, you'll see what the difference of that actually looks like. So we'll just speed this process up a second. Okay, so that actually didn't take very long to complete at all. What it's going to do now is it's going to stitch it all together, create us one amazing pano file. And what you can actually do now is you can go into your gallery and you can actually go and view that image straight away. So you can see we've got good dynamic range in the highlights, the shadows are looking very nice, and if we press this, we can then view it as a 360-degree photo. This is only the low resolution version, so just bear that in mind. If it comes up a little bit blurry like it did there, that's the reason why. Okay, so we're now back to our live view. If we click on our little sphere there, that brings us back into our modes, and we're going to go to video mode. So you've got normal mode and you've got slow-mo mode. Now, because we've selected pro mode for the photos, we've now got pro mode selected for the videos, but it's all in auto still. So let's change that, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into the menu now, and I'm going to go into camera, and I'm going to select D-Log-M. In fact, I'm going to select HLG because I know a lot of you guys don't necessarily, especially if it's your first drone, you're not going to want to have to learn, oh, how do I become a video editor as well? So we'll use HLG. Now, HLG requires a little bit of video editing, but nothing major. Just a little slider here and a little slider there, but it will offer you quality a lot higher. What else have we got in here? Have we got anything else in here we need to worry about? Select our peaking levels. You can select your grid lines and stuff. I generally do. We'll have our overexposure warning. Our white balance we want set to 56. Did I just change that then? Yes, I did. Okay. So obviously you can see now we are massively underexposed, but we want to go off, or we want to attempt to keep us close to the rule for video of doubling your frame rate. So first things first, we are shooting in 4K 60. That's what we're shooting in. So we need this to be as close to 1/120 as possible. Now that actually shows us we are very slightly underexposed, but if you look, we do have in the top corner some of the sky is overexposed. So I'm just going to bring that down slightly. And this will require a little bit of work in post just to make it look as stunning as you possibly can. So first things first then, let's have a fly around. So I'm going to put it into cine mode without changing any settings first of all, and we'll just have a fly around. Now it is lovely and quiet. Probably barely even audible. I've got a good view of it, it's not very far away from me at all. Now there is some work going on here, so if I just look at the drone and drop it down a little bit. Now we are in cine mode, remember, so it's going to drop down slower than what it would do in normal mode. And then we'll just do a nice sort of slide shot over to the right and just have a look at what work they're doing. And this should show us some of the detail, some of the, just make sure I can still see it, some of the detail and some of the extra stuff that this camera should be pulling out for us. I can certainly tell before I even get back, it looks a lot better than the Mini 4 Pro, but it's going to do, isn't it, because it's got a 1-inch sensor, and that 1-inch sensor is, I mean, forgive me, but massive. There is a 5G mast there, so it'd be interesting to see if we get any interference. We're stuck at 37, 38 satellites, and we've got no RC link error or degradation messages whatsoever. So our connection looks pretty stable. Now we've got a little stand here, I suppose you would call it. If we highlight it like that, what we can do now is if we move the right stick left, it will fly left, but it will keep that perfectly centered. Now eventually it will run out of data on the camera and it will switch to essentially GPS data, so that box will go smaller. So if you're doing anything sort of bigger or further away or a bit more complex, you may want to just wait for that box to go smaller before you actually get your shot. But as we can see here, it's coping really well. So if I move the stick back and to the right, and then what I'll also do is I'll ascend, it will bring the gimbal down automatically as well. I still fly a lot of my stuff fully manual, but if the tools are there and available to you to use the tools. That's actually locked on longer than it normally does. That's really impressive actually. Okay, so now you've done that and you're thinking, right, well, I want to go back to doing it normally. Just press on the X and get rid of it. What I need to do now is work out, there we go, work out how we use this infinity gimbal. So we're going to go back and we're going to do the same shot again, only this time we're going to do it a little bit better. Again, this is my very first flight with this drone, so I'm learning with you guys. It rolls more to the left than it does to the right, so I wonder, can we do this? Yes, we can. Right, so I'm going to move the right stick to the right and hold the function button down, and then as I do that, I am going to roll the infinity gimbal that way. It's a little bit too quick. I need to look at slowing that down. Even in cine mode, it's a little bit too quick for my liking. There has to be a way to... No. Okay. So let's go a little bit closer, a little bit lower down. Again, we're using the autonomous mode just to keep us lovely and smooth. There are people working there, so we are going to respect that and not get too close. But this time we're going to go back. And we're going to turn that... Oh, that's far too fast. Now, I can see the drone, but I can't see what is behind it. So that's where them cameras really do come in to their own. If I lock that camera now backwards, I can see that behind us we're actually clear at this height. So let's try that again. So we'll go backwards, hold the function button down, and then just gently roll that wheel. And you can see there it's actually gone to the GPS data because we've got a little bit too far away from it. Once it's locked on the GPS data, it will stay lovely and smooth for you, but you may just want to make sure it's done that first before you then do your move, because it may sometimes sort of change course halfway through. Once it's on 1 and locked, you're fine though. Okay, so we'll cancel that. We'll return that to its natural position. There should be a button, I'm sure there's a button somewhere. I'm sure there is, that will just straighten it out a little bit. But again, we can just do a nice little flight over these trees here. And you'll see the sensors will sort of warn you that you're a little bit close underneath as we go over this tree, I suspect. Yep, so we're 4 meters above the tree. You've got 2 different versions of avoidance sensors. One's called Nifty and one's called Bypass, and one's called Brake. And we can have a look at those in a second. This would probably be quite a good thing to probably a little bit late now, but now for anybody wondering about the flight time, we've been flying for 12 minutes and it says it's on 40%. However, this was not a fully charged battery. It's like some sort of Inception, this, isn't it? Okay, so as a newbie, those are the things I would change first of all, and I would advise that you all fly in cine mode initially. The reason for that is obviously that's going to offer you the easiest way of flying and the smoothest way of flying. But I am going to have a look at changing some of the gain and expo settings in here in a second to show you how to make it even smoother. We'll have a quick look at this lossless zoom, and the reason I've gone over here, still have the drone in visual line of sight, is right in the middle of the screen there now is a helipad, and we'll go to that 2x lossless zoom. This is a major hospital, and that's a helipad, and that's where the emergency helicopter lands. So it sort of comes over those trees from behind and lands there. But we're looking at the 2x lossless zoom and we can see just how good it actually is. It doesn't appear to lose any sort of quality whatsoever. It's sort of punching in using the extra size on the sensor. So it is technically a digital zoom, but it's a digital lossless zoom, which means essentially you've got a an Air 3S in your pocket, which, let's be fair, is brilliant. So we'll spin around and see what else we can see over here. I think we are pretty much done. But that is the initial. For anybody that asks, do I have a pinch? Yeah, I do. When I'm flying a camera drone, I'll always pinch. But not when I'm flying an FPV drone. Really good quality, really impressive, super quiet. Sorry, we haven't been flying for 11 minutes, we've got 6 minutes left. Sorry, I read that wrong. So what I'm going to do very quickly, how high are we? 60 meters high. So if we go up so we can see that helipad a little bit clearer, up to about 100 metres or just under. Switch to photo mode. Now we've got lots of zebras here, so all we need to do is just increase until those zebras vanish. There we go. And we'll take AEB, we'll take a shot. Once that's done, we're going to bring it, well, we're going to switch it to the 2x lossless zoom mode.
Is low.
Giving us a warning.
Aircraft
So
will
you've got a low
return to
battery.
the
It's going to
home
return to
point
home in a
in 10
minute
seconds.
automatically. Do you want
Low
that to happen or do you
battery.
want to cancel
Return
it?
to
I'll
home
cancel it because I'm
promptly.
just taking this picture. And I can see I've got 17% battery left and 4 minutes and 30 or 20 seconds of flight time left. I'm not massively concerned by that because the drone is literally above my head now. We'll just switch this camera back around. And we are landing the drone now with 3.5 minutes battery time left. And this video is about 25 minutes long, so take from that what you will, but this was not a fully charged battery, really important to say that. And there she is. Okay, until next time. If you've got any questions whatsoever, please do leave them in the comments down below. I respond to every single question you guys ask. And will always do so. So please, if you've got any questions, just ask away. But in the meantime, peace out, everybody.